Good morning. Welcome, YouTube. I hope that you already have your coffee. I've got mine. We are ready to get started on recording episode 142 of the Family Meeting Podcast. We're glad that you're watching with us.
It is a beautiful morning here. It's early. Start to see the light coming up. Just a hair. It's early today.
So it's so quiet in our house. All of our kids are still sleeping. The dog's still sleeping. It's a nice, quiet morning.
Yeah.
I like getting up this early.
I do too. I'm typically at the gym right now, but I skip my physical well-being so I could feed you intellectually and relationally, socially.
You are such a saint.
Yes,
wow.
I'm building your social and intellectual muscles, parenting, marriage muscles.
The rest of us feel very honored by your presence.
Yeah. Well, I guess marriage muscles was last episode, but we are getting ready to go to Iowa soon. So we're making sure all of our episodes are recorded ahead of time. We can get them scheduled and things will continue on just like we're back at home doing absolutely nothing like usual.
Right. Yeah, we're going to have like a little family vacation, but it's going back to see family and friends. So it will be nice, but I do not expect it to be restful.
Probably not.
I expect it to be full of activity, and I expect us to come back probably more tired than when we left.
Yeah.
You too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But that's okay. It'll still be nice.
But I'm looking forward to going to a certain restaurant on the way back. So we love ranch, like ranch dressing, not like Cowboy Ranch. Don't know nothing about Cowboy Ranch. But love ranch. And so there is a restaurant in St. Louis called Twisted Ranch. And if you've not been there, you have to literally make a trip to St. Louis to do two things. Go to the zoo because it's free. And it's a fantastic zoo, by the way. And you have to go to Twisted Ranch. And so for those of you that aren't familiar, you can go in. They have like this appetizer that you order, and it's a bunch of French fries, which are really good by themselves. I'm not a French fry person, but they're good fries. But they have like all these different kinds of ranch, and then you pick 13 of them, and you can dip and try all the different ranches. So that's totally going to make the whole trip worth it.
Have you ever seen Thomas this excited?
No. Not this, especially not this early in the morning.
Get him started talking about ranch or his favorite restaurants, and he's like, woohoo!
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. That's what I'm most looking forward to.
That's sad and beautiful. Can you carry that excitement into this episode?
Totally.
Okay. Let's do it, babe.
I'm totally secure in the fact that I can do that.
Okay. Then do that.
Okay. Gather round, everybody.
Too much.
Oh. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Ranch.
Hello and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 142 of the Family Meeting Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about helping your children with their insecurities.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tough to watch your kids struggle with insecurities, isn't it? Like, it just breaks your heart. Yeah. It's so hard. Sometimes you can feel so helpless. And we as parents, we see their positive qualities and yes, we see their negative traits. Like, we see areas where they struggle, where they fail, where they have faults. But when we as parents look at our children's maybe negative aspects, we see them in their proper place. We see them as maybe not a big deal or something that you can work through or whatever. But when they see them, they see these mountains. They see things that they cannot overcome.
Well, and you touched on something there. Sometimes I literally have to have this inner dialogue, because when certain of our daughters are struggling with certain things, there is a part of me, and it's just old school mentality, that just this is not a big deal. Like, just get over it and just do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, as you all know, our insecurities can cripple us. And but there's that old school mentality in me, and it's a good thing I have daughters. We've talked about this on so many episodes. Lysandra and I have had so many good personal conversations about this, because I feel like I treat the girls differently than I would treat a son.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the girls, that it brings out that soft,
merciful,
gentle, merciful side of me.
Mm-hmm.
Where I have those thoughts of like, just get over it. And this is not a big deal. And then I'm reminded, to them, it is a big deal.
That's right.
Like for me, that is nothing. That is easy. But even though my daughters range in age from 17 to 12, there are certain things that are easy for them that are difficult for me as a grown man. So I have to kind of remind myself of some of that before I actually have any interactions with them, as far as talking to them and helping and verbally being there in those moments. But for a son, I just feel like, obviously I don't know because we don't have a son, but I feel like in my heart I would not be that gentle type. Like I would be the get over it. Like, it's no big deal.
I can't imagine the amount of conversations we would have where I would be like, honey, can I talk to you?
I know, right?
And I'd be like, babe, you got to chill out. You're being so hard on him. Can you imagine the amount of conversations like that we'd have?
I can, because sometimes it's the opposite. I'm like, Lysandra, can I just see you for a second? Like,
and then what are you telling me? Not to be so hard on the girls.
Yeah. Like maybe just come down a couple levels, a couple octaves.
I'm like, your character.
Yeah. So it's just interesting, but.
Yeah. But, all of our kids have insecurities. And if you feel like your kid doesn't have an insecurity, it's probably that you're not communicating very well with them, because they do.
Yeah.
We all do. You do. I do. Even Thomas, who is a pretty confident person, he has some insecurities here and there, maybe.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in just a little bit in the episode, but everybody has them.
Everybody does. And so we need to be able to be in tune to those things with our kids and help them through it.
So if you have a child overwhelmed by insecurities, we just want to give you some steps that you can take to help them see themselves for what they really are, and learn how to cope with these insecurities. So identifying what the insecurity is, and then how do I deal with it? And it reminds me of Psalm 103. And there's a few verses in here, starting at verse number 11, says this: "For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his steadfast love towards those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far does he remove our transgressions from us. As a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear him. For he knows our frame, he remembers that we are dust." And I love this because of it shows us the way that God cares about all of us. And as I mentioned, there are times where my daughters are talking about whatever their insecurity is, and I'm not going to share their insecurities publicly. But I hear them talking about them or struggling. And as I mentioned, there are moments where that inner monologue is like, just shut up and just deal with it. But then that dad side comes out.
Yeah.
Thomas leaves and dad shows up, and dad is like, "Oh, my sweet baby, come here and just let me hug you and hold you." And
right. It's that compassion.
I talk about all their great qualities and just that love and that compassion. And I think about that phrase at the end of verse number 14 there, where he remembers that we are dust. That God, he remembers exactly who we are, that we are weak, that we are frail, and he helps us in all the situations that we have in life. And as parents, we need that same kind of mindset where we remember, hey, this is my 17-year-old daughter. This is not a 42-year-old man that I'm talking about. This is my 12-year-old little girl. This is not a 38-year-old woman that I'm dealing with here. And even, we're going to talk about insecurities in just a little bit. My wife has some insecurities. And so even in talking with her as her husband, being reminded that my wife is not me and I'm not her, and so the things that she deals with, they are very real to her, and so being reminded of that. But God shows compassion to us, and listen, as parents, we need to show compassion. And maybe for some of you, you're like me, where that just doesn't come naturally and you have to work at it.
Yeah.
And I would just say for you, don't jump out and just start speaking, but actually think about your words. We had one of the guys on our preaching team was Mike Adler was preaching Sunday.
Yeah.
And he shared something that was so great. And I don't have the passage in front of me, but Paul is writing to the Corinthians and he talks about taking every thought captive. And so Mike was challenging us just to, first of all, just pause. He used 2 words to help us. Pause. And you're stopping and you're not saying anything, you're not doing anything, you're just working at that thought. Like, where did that thought come from? Is it a good thought? Is it a bad thought? And then based upon whether it's a good thought or bad thought, we move forward with action. And the second word was pray. And so there's times as parents where that's exactly what we need to do. Rather than just saying what we think in that moment, just stopping, we need to pause and we need to pray. God, give me the words to say that will help my child right now. That give me the words that I can lead and guide and disciple them in this moment that they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So remembering the compassion that God has for us will help us to understand the type of compassion that we ought to have for our kids. So we want to share with you, all right, my kid has some insecurities. And some of your kids may have a lot of insecurities. Some of them may not hardly have any. They do have some because it's a natural part of growing up, I think. But here are some things we want to share with you to help you be able to help them through these moments. So
before we dig into this, I wanted to mention, I think that some of these can be really helpful in a marriage relationship as well, as far as dealing with a spouse and their insecurities. So maybe that's just something you want to keep in the back of your mind as we go through these things. They might be helpful as you are listening to your spouse's insecurities and kind of helping them navigate them. So the first thing we want to talk about is, it's very simple, talk. Keep the lines of communication open at all times with your children. So when your child has an insecurity and you see it kind of come to the forefront, maybe we're going to choose something as an example. So let's say your child is insecure about their intelligence and they have a test coming up and they feel like they're stupid. I'm so stupid, I can't do this test. And all of a sudden, for the first time, you're seeing, my child is insecure about how smart they are. And if that is the first time that you've had to like sit down and talk to them, it's the first time you've had an open and honest conversation, you're not going to get very far. Yeah, but if you have worked every day to keep the lines of communication open with your children, and every day you're spending a little bit of time talking to them about nonsense, about what happened today, how do you feel about this?
What are they reading? What's going on in their favorite TV show?
All these things, the lines of communication are already open. Then when you see the insecurity come out, you already have access to their thoughts and feelings because you've already done the work, and it will be much easier. So now you've got to talk things through, and we're going to go through about exactly kind of what to talk about, but that's the first thing we want to encourage you to do, is be working towards lines of communication, keeping them open, keeping them constant and consistent. So the first thing you've got to do is you got to talk to them.
Yeah. And I think about, especially years ago, like communication is a lot different now, but let's bring it out of the fact that we don't have wires to talk on the phone anymore.
Okay, Grandpa.
Yeah, I'm that old. Like, I remember being literally tied to the wall to talk to this girl that I liked.
You loved.
Yeah. No, I just liked her. She wasn't you. I'm just kidding. I knew that would get you. You were trying to figure out. Yeah, right. You were trying to figure out, like, who was he talking to? Admit it. Did you for a second? You're like, who was he talking to?
Yeah, for a second I was like, well, was there someone else?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, was there someone else?
There was never no one else.
No. Okay.
There was never no one else.
I'm totally confused right now.
My plan is working. For those of you that maybe this is your first episode, Lysandra and I are basically childhood sweethearts, and been together for absolutely ever.
Wow, that sounded really nice.
It's been amazing, really. But we used to talk on the phone, and had the phone cords and all that.
The spiral phone cord.
Yeah. And you sit and you play with it, or you be talking and wrap yourself up in it,
or annoy your siblings or your college roommates as you.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, get them tangled up in it.
So obviously now, we don't have wires. We have our cell phones, and but how important those cell towers are. We're talking about keeping the lines of communication open at all times. So we live in a place with hurricanes, and hurricanes come and they will often knock out the cell towers, and so, or the power grid goes down, so the cell towers aren't working, and you lose that, right? And the same is true with our kids. So if we don't keep the lines of communication open on the everyday normal stuff that's really not that important, it's only important in the fact that it keeps that connection open and flowing freely.
Right.
But if we don't keep that open, when something important happens and we need to have that critical conversation, well, that cell tower is down because we haven't maintained it. And then we're not able to have that conversation. I think that's such a great point for us. And maybe you are one of those parents where it's like, I'm so sick and tired of talking about XYZ.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
Like anime. My girls love anime. They love volleyball. They love certain things. And it's like, you know what? For myself, I really don't care about it. But I love them. I care about them. I want to keep that line of communication open. You know who's really good at this is our friend Bree.
She's amazing.
She knows, like, her daughter's into anime.
She's making us look bad, babe.
She knows the names of the characters. She secretly wears the T-shirts.
Oh, snap. It's not a secret anymore.
Oh, whoops. Sometimes I forget that
this
goes
episode's going to come out when we are in Iowa. We're going to get in trouble.
Oh, shout out to Bree. I just gave away your secret about your anime T-shirts.
Hi, Bree. Love you.
But she's good at that, and that really keeps the line of communication open between her and her daughter.
And sons.
Yes,
yeah,
and her sons.
The sons are into it, too.
Yeah. Because I have daughters, I forget other people actually have sons. I literally just think about, okay, my girl's friends.
Yeah.
So that's really good about keeping the line of communications open. And then moving along, and you want to share your insecurities. Mm-hmm. So as Lysandra talked about, we all have insecurities. I don't have a lot of them.
I watch Thomas live his life, just happily, carefree, going through life with very few insecurities, if any. And I am so jealous of the life you're living.
I have noticed, though, the older I get, the more personal conversations, especially with strangers, bother me. Okay,
so you're insecure about your ability to have a conversation with a stranger when it's just you and them.
Yeah, because you talk about the few whatever things that don't really matter in life, the pleasantries. Mm-hmm. Well, there's only like so many times you can say, "How's the weather?" or "Man, what a beautiful day outside."
How many times have I offered to make you cue cards?
Yeah, that would be helpful because it's then what do you talk about?
Yeah.
So like, for instance,
okay.
Tomorrow, I'm going to be going to Orlando, and there is a pastor who started a church, took a couple churches, merged them together, and started Connexus Church. He is a podcaster on leadership and all kinds of stuff. Carrie Newhoff. Mm-hmm. I've been following his podcast and leadership stuff for years. So I'm a part of his leadership network. And he just made a post out to our group and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Orlando. I've got like 6 seats open for lunch. I'll buy you lunch if you just show up and we can get together." And I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome. I'll be able to sit down and have lunch with Carrie Newhoff." Cool. But I didn't think about the other people that'll be at the table. Like, it's not just me, so I'm going to be talking not just to Carrie, but I'm going to be talking to some other people there as well. And I'm just like, I'm a little nervous about how those conversations are going to go.
Mm-hmm. And this has a lot to do with being an introvert.
Yeah, most definitely.
And just kind of how your personality is.
I would much rather get up and talk to a whole large group of people. I was in spiritual mentoring last night with Troy, and I was just talking about this topic as far as these personal conversations. And I'm very insecure and unsure about how do I end a conversation with somebody, like a stranger. Like, hey, I'm all right. I'm done talking with you now. Like, bye.
You just say the end.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So it's like, hey,
just say the end and walk away.
Great weather. It's sunny out. The end.
Yep.
Okay.
Babe, cool. I'm always here to help you.
I'm going to try that tomorrow at lunch.
You're never invited back to lunch again. Yeah, there are a lot of insecurities. I have them, you have them, the kids have them. And so one of the things that you can do as you're talking and sharing is share your insecurities. So I do this often with my girls.
So are you going to share with us your insecurities?
Yes, I know everybody's sitting on the edge of their seat. Can't wait to hear my insecurities.
Certainly, Lysandra has no insecurity. That's what some people are saying because you are very outgoing. You're very well-spoken.
No one is saying that.
Yeah, if they've heard you do public speaking, for sure they have. Or if they've had conversations with you. Like, you're very good socially.
Yeah.
And you're a phenomenal public speaker. And you're an amazing wife and mother. So obviously they would think that
okay,
she has no insecurity.
Are you trying to butter me up for something here?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
She's the perfect lady, has it all together. So let's just pop that bubble. I'm inside the bubble, so I know what's in here. Pop the bubble so everybody else can see what does this man deal with this woman on a regular basis.
He deals with a lot. People have no idea. So I mean, I've shared publicly, though, my insecurities. I know I share it often with our ladies here in my church and in our ministry. And I know I've shared it before on the podcast. So many of you have heard this before, and you maybe want to fast forward through this part of the podcast. But for those of you who do not know my insecurities, here's the exciting revelation. My biggest insecurity is... I'm trying to think of how to really put it. It's body issues. My biggest insecurity is definitely body issues. I don't know why. I've tried to kind of retrace maybe perhaps why. And we've gone into this, I know, in a previous episode, but when I was just going through adolescence, a girl called me fat because I developed before the other girls, and they said, "Whoa, you got fat over the summer." And it like killed me. And then combine that, and this is as I'm older, I'm starting to put things together. Combine that with sexual abuse at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I think it just really messed with my mind. I don't know. But when I look in the mirror, I see fat all the time. Like, no matter what weight I am, I see a very fat person. And when I get ready in the mornings, and Thomas knows, I will try on 15 things every day. Like,
there's times where I'm sitting at my desk working, and I will move to go to the closet, whether it's my turn to get ready or what. And normally our closet is in pretty decent order.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a closet. We live there, but there are times where I walk in and Lysandra's in there and there's clothes everywhere, and I just like, oh, nope, not right now.
Walk
like,
right back out.
Emergency, find your nearest exit.
Yeah.
It's like that little gif with the tiny little baby kid where
I'm
running and all of a sudden his face
like,
is like, oh, and he turns around and runs the other way.
Out of there. Yeah.
Like, I've totally done that before in our closet.
Very wise. So the whole point of me putting on all these different clothes is I'm trying to find the thing that makes me look skinnier. That's what it is. So that's my big insecurity. I have many others as well.
Like what?
I'm insecure about, I guess you could say, my education.
Okay.
When I really think through it and everything, I understand that, like, I was supposed to have the exact education that I had, and it's exactly what I needed for who I am and the plan God had for me. But I didn't go to college. I got married at 18, and then we immediately started working, and because you were finishing college. So So I do sometimes have that insecurity that comes into play when talking with other people if they're sharing their education. I have that insecurity like, oh, yeah. And just, I don't want to tell someone, or whatever, if I think that may
Sure.
come into play with what their opinion of me is. Other ones, I can't spell at all. I'll share this story really quick.
Oh, you have to.
It's a short one.
It's so funny, and I'm glad that it doesn't actually bother you. But
no, I find the comedy in it, but there is a little insecurity behind it. So, as many of you know, we have a book on marriage that we have written, and it's in the second stages of editing. And the stage of editing that it's in right now is the proofreader. So Kelly Murray is our proofreader. She's started her own business, and she's going to be doing spelling, punctuation, grammar. And so I messaged her and I said, I want to make sure that we
you help us with citing
other book quotes and things, make sure that we get that all done properly. And so I spelled it Sighting in the
which
email.
Which is a correct spelling for a citing.
But not the one I meant.
Different citing.
And so she emails me back and very graciously didn't say anything. She just spelled it correctly in her email because I'm sure that she could not possibly misspell it and not, probably goes against the grain of who she is.
Yeah.
So she emails back and she's like, I'd be happy to help you with citing. I'll be watching for that. And it's Citing. And I'm like, oh, well, I spelled that wrong. And I laughed and I told Thomas, I was like, that right away out of the gate helps her to know spelling is going to be an issue. Make sure you pay attention to spelling.
Well, and that's the thing, because spell check is worthless if you have the wrong word.
Yes.
Like you spelled it correctly. It was just not the right word. And of course, that's our beautiful English language that has so many words that are the same, but not the same.
Yeah. So I'm a terrible speller, but I also don't care enough to work on that. I'm not going to work on spelling correctly because it's a waste of my time at this point. We do have spell check. I'm going to use editors and everything. And I don't care that much.
You have a husband that can spell pretty well. So
yeah, you spell really well. So, but those are just a few insecurities. I have others, but we need to move on.
Like what?
I feel like we need to move on. I don't know. They come up here and there. What else?
Are you insecure about your insecurities?
No, not at all. I don't mind sharing. In fact, I think it's really important that we share our insecurities with other people. I think other people need to know what they are, because that helps other people to realize, oh yeah, everyone has insecurities.
Yeah. Well, especially in positions of leadership, I think people need to understand that we're just normal people. Mm-hmm. And we do have issues. We do have insecurities, things that we deal with. And as a parent, you're the leader of your children, right? And so same principle applies, where our kids need to understand we're not perfect. We're not Superman. We're not Superwoman or whatever.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Wonder Woman, whatever her name is. We're just humans. And yes, we deal with these issues too, and this is how we deal with them, which goes into kind of the next flow of that conversation.
Right. And that is to describe how you deal with your insecurities. So you're going to share your insecurities with your kids. And this is all part of keeping those lines of communication open as well. So let's say one of our kids is dealing with, we're going to use that example that I used at the beginning with intelligence. Okay. I'm so stupid, I can't pass this test or whatever. Then I can come in and say, listen, I understand how you're feeling, because there have been times when I feel like I'm stupid, or this is something that I have dealt with in the past. So then you can describe to them how you have dealt with it. And, I pray about it. I pray about it often. I read Bible verses that tells me my value in Christ, and that I am exactly who I'm supposed to be, that God makes no mistakes. And then I can share those things with them as well. So I think it's really important to talk about how you deal with your insecurities and how you cope with them.
Yeah. And so, one of the things for me is I was sharing this. It's super funny. I was sharing this at our beach service on Sunday, that often before I I go into a crowd of people.
Yeah, you're so funny.
I never verbally do it because I think that's moves it into the crazy.
But mentally, totally not crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not having a two-sided conversation, but mentally I'm like getting myself ready.
Mm-hmm. Like, what does that sound like? In your mind, not out loud.
It kind of sounds like some coach.
Okay, go ahead.
Some famous coach who is like, all right, we know the enemy's out there.
The enemy is the crowd?
Yeah.
Okay.
The people. We know the enemy's out there. But we can do this.
Okay, so you're like, in your mind, you're like, you can do this, you can do this.
Yeah.
What else?
Like talking myself through, okay, you're going to have a conversation and do this. Yeah. And you're not going to just go away to a corner of the room and, so.
That's so fascinating to me because when I'm about to go into a crowd of people, I'm like, yay, a crowd of people.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in my mind. I'm like, I can't wait. I'm going to talk to everybody. We are so different.
And I'm like, look them in the eye for 2 seconds and then glance away for half a second and then look back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to think about all that. I never think about any of that. I love social situations, but it's so good for me to hear someone like you describe what you go through because then I can also understand, other introverts or other people who are insecure in small conversations as well. But anyway.
And that's the thing. It helps us because everybody deals with certain things. They have insecurities, but okay, we deal with them.
We cope. We cope with them.
You can't just let these things control you. Mm-hmm. I don't have a job if I let my insecurities control me.
That is so true.
So we have to find a way to deal with it and overcome them, and we can overcome them. And that's why it's so good to share them because we're teaching our kids you can overcome them.
Yes.
They're not superhuman. They're not perfect. They're not without flaw. We all have flaws, and we're teaching them that in spite of the flaws, you can overcome these things, and you can, even though you're the total opposite. So I'm a total introvert, just want to be alone or with the few people that I'm very close to. Those social things don't bother me if I'm really close to somebody. So I've had to overcome those. And it's funny because literally we were just, when was it? Monday was Memorial Day. So a couple days ago. We came back into town from visiting friends, and our kids had been picked up and were over at their friend's house, family in our church that we're friends with, and they had groups of families over. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys were kind of sitting, the men were sitting around by themselves, and the ladies were off somewhere else. So I sit down, and we're having a conversation. One of the dads I've never met before, or if I maybe just met him, I've never really talked to him much. And I'm introduced, and I'm the pastor, and this and that. And then it was brought up that I was an introvert. And his mind was totally blown. Yeah. Like, you're an introvert as a pastor? Like, that's, how is that even possible?
through the help of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. But it helps people to know, like, you can overcome it. Like, these things don't have to,
they don't have to
cripple you.
That's right.
So you describe how you deal with them. And then what we want to do is we want to help our kids, or maybe we help our wives. There's times where I talk through things with Lysandra, and it's like, yeah, where do you think this came from? But find the root of the insecurity.
I think this is really important.
So where did this come from? Why are they insecure about this? So Lysandra has given this illustration that I don't think there's ever been a time where I felt insecure about what I knew. Mm-hmm. There's certain things that I know I just don't know, and I'm okay with it. Like I sit around and talk with these men, and they're talking about cars, I don't know nothing about cars. They're saying all these words and I have no idea what they mean.
One time when Thomas was preaching, he was like in the middle of his sermon and he couldn't remember the word mechanic. And so he said, the car fix-it guy. And all the men, actually men and women laughed. Everybody laughed because like he couldn't think of the word mechanic. Now he knows the word mechanic, but he couldn't think of it in that moment. And so it just like made you sound like this guy who knows nothing about cars.
I know very little.
So funny.
We just talked about it in one of our episodes, but it's just not my thing. So they're talking about all the horsepower that these certain cars have and whatever else. Yes, I know the word horsepower.
Good job.
And different like types of cars and what they do. Like these guys know all this stuff about all these different brands of cars and which car has all this power and whatever else. I'm just like sitting there smiling. But, I know I don't know, but it doesn't bother me that I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So even if it's something I don't know about, like it doesn't bother me.
And if your child is insecure in the area of intelligence or, knowing things or whatever, one thing that we often tell our girls is nobody can be smart about everything. Nobody can know everything about everything.
Yeah.
There may be somebody who is is totally up on politics. They know everything about politics and how they run and how they work and who's where and who's what and where they came from and everybody. And yet that person may not know anything about the Bible, or they may not know anything about cars or whatever, because nobody can know everything about everything. So understand that it's okay to just be in your lane and you know what you know, and that's okay not to know everything about everything. But another question to ask them is, has somebody been teasing them about this?
Yeah.
And maybe that has kind of created this insecurity. Have we as parents said something that would create an insecurity? There are times when we say things, we have no idea how they are perceiving the thing that we have said. So for instance, you may simply be saying, you don't need 2 desserts. It might be as simple as that. You don't need 2 desserts. What are you doing? You don't need 2 desserts. And they may have taken that and heard, I think you're fat. I mean, it could be as simple as that. So
I have heard parents actually call their kids fat, and I'm just like dying inside every time I hear something
awful.
Like that.
Yeah. So it's possible that we have said something that would create an insecurity in our children, but you're not going to know that until you work through it with them and talk through it and find the root of the insecurity. Have they failed at something? Maybe that is what is creating this insecurity. So using the illustration of I can't pass this test, or I'm stupid, or whatever. Okay, have there been tests in the past that they have failed that has led them to this insecurity? Figuring that out. For me, with my body issues, as I've gotten older and really worked hard to figure out, where did this start? When was the first time I felt insecure about the way that I looked? It was when that girl called me fat, and then that, which coincided incidentally with sexual abuse. And so I think that that's where it came from. When I was able to work through that and understand that, it helped me. It helped me to see that, like, this didn't come from nowhere. Like, this has a root, and this is why I'm like this. It has not changed it. Like, I'm glad that I know where it started and where it came from, but I still look in the mirror and see what I see. I can't change that. Unfortunately, I've been praying about it and talking to the Lord about it for years. So I want you to understand that just because we know the root of it, it may not change the way we are about the insecurity, but I do believe it helps. The understanding really does help. It makes you feel like I'm not so crazy. Like, this started here because of this.
Yeah. Well, and trauma like that literally changes your brain. I mean, so if your kid's not going through trauma, it's a little different than if they've been sexually abused or something like that, So it is very beneficial to understand, especially with where our kids are now. We can help them to work through them. And you're dealing with issues that have been going on for 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, hey, this has been something I've been dealing with for a couple of months.
Right.
So those are totally 2 different scenarios.
And maybe we can help them earlier.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think this one is good. Don't lie. So, like, we know when people are lying to us, right? So let's say
sometimes, yes.
Which this is interesting though, because the brain is fascinating. So let's use my insecurity. Okay.
No, let's use the smart. The
okay.
I feel into like if your kid's not smart, don't tell them they're smart. Oh no, you're so smart. You've gotten F's in everything this entire year. But okay, you're so smart.
Well, but they can be smart in other things. You might be able to just say, listen, you're not good at school. Like you're not a good test taker.
You're not as dumb as you think you are.
Okay, we're starting to go down a bad road here. Okay,
all right, let's switch over to yours.
Yeah, please do.
Let's switch over to your insecurities.
Okay, so I'm fat, right? Okay.
No, you're not. Oh, PHAT, pretty hot and tempting.
Oh my
Remember
gosh.
that?
You went right back into the 90s. What? All that in a bag of chips, baby.
You're so fat.
Thanks. Okay, so let's just say your 8-year-old is 140 pounds.
That would be
an obese child. Okay,
large for an 8-year-old. Yes,
that would be very large. All right, so you're not going to go to your 8-year-old. You're not fat. You're not we're not going to lie. Okay, so if there is a blaringly obvious problem,
well, and if your voice gets high like that while you're talking, they definitely know you're lying.
Yeah, don't lie to them. Now, here's where it comes into kind of a little bit of a difficulty. When Thomas looks at me and says, you're not fat, I'm like, stop lying, shut up.
She literally does. Yeah.
So the brain is kind of crazy, right?
You're working on
I'm
not
working
saying
on
that,
I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to say thank you. So don't compliment things that are not true. They're going to see through it. Flattery. Think of what flattery is. It's to compliment beyond truth. So you're not going to lie. Because then when you say things that are true, you've lost your credibility. So don't lie about the insecurity. If there is something that is really wrong and there really is a fault, a failure, an issue, a negative trait, you don't have to say anything about it, but don't lie and say that it's not there.
Yeah.
Don't say no, you're an amazing student. If they aren't an amazing student, don't lie. You've lost your credibility when you say something else that maybe is true. Okay? So.
Next thing is to help them fail and keep trying.
That's so good.
So when you fail and you keep trying, one of our girls has a math thing that she's dealing with. And, there's a test that she's had a hard time with, and we just keep telling her, okay, keep on studying, keep on, and we're going to go back and we're going to try again. We're going to go back and we're going to try again.
Yep. We're not giving up.
And teaching them, yes, we all fail. And I think about, I believe it's Solomon, who talks about the fact that a just man falls 7 times. But the verse doesn't stop there. It says he gets up again. Mm-hmm. So he fails 7 times. He falls flat on his face, but he just keeps getting up and he keeps on trying. Mm-hmm. And we don't allow this thing to get the victory over us. We're just going to keep on trying.
That's right.
It's like
Thomas Edison
having these with the light bulb, right? There's times where socially, man, that was an awkward conversation.
You failed.
Totally failed. That was weird.
That person thinks I'm weird.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the things too, though, about being so vocal about what I'm not good at.
Your insecurities. When you're vocal about your insecurities.
So that people are, when those weird exchanges happen, people are, yeah, he's right. That's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a little grace there. Oh. Yeah. Bless his little heart.
Oh, he's so stupid socially. Bless his heart.
Exactly. But you know what? I just keep having the conversations, keep building those relationships.
That's right. Walk with them through their failure and help them to have the courage to try again. Praise effort, not accomplishments. And I guess I would say praise effort and accomplishments. It's okay.
Well, yeah, praise accomplishments.
It's good to celebrate when any of your children have an accomplishment. And I would say too, just because one child can't, isn't great at passing tests, that doesn't mean you can't talk about and praise the child who did pass a test.
Yeah.
Like, we all have to understand that it's okay to be happy for somebody else when they succeed and we don't. And that's part of the training that they need.
Yeah.
So do help them to like understand, this sibling over here is really great in school. And that's okay, because you're really great over here. You're really great with making other people feel comfortable in social situations. And that's good too. And we can praise both things.
Well, and one of the things we talk to our girls about, whether it's they fail a test or something, is did you try your best?
Mm-hmm.
Did you try your best? Yes. And then I may ask them, like, okay, you tried your best. Tell me about how you studied for this. Like, how much time did you spend studying?
What's the effort?
And what exactly was the effort to get them to see, did they really try their best or not? Because sometimes we, as kids, and even as adults, we say we try our best when we really didn't.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't put in the effort. We spent too much time watching TV when we should have been hitting the books or whatever else. Or we went out with friends when maybe we should have been watching a few more YouTube videos on some instructional thing.
Mm-hmm.
But getting them to understand, hey, putting your best effort in, and if you put in your best effort in and you fell short, that's okay, but you did your best. And so when they work hard, recognize the fact that they work hard at whatever it is. And then you go on and you talk about their positive character traits.
Yes.
So list those out, verbalize them, let them hear you talk about the positive attributes.
Mm-hmm.
You're friendly, you're kind, you're honest, all these positive character traits. Because what we're doing is we're working to build up their confidence in a truthful manner.
Right.
So as Lysandra talked about, you don't lie to them, you don't misrepresent the truth. If there's things that where issues character-wise they need to work on, you don't tell them they're doing a great job at that, but you can highlight the good things they are doing and build up the confidence, and that build up confidence helps them to be able to deal with the shortcoming areas, the insecure areas.
And what we do is we will tell each other in front of our children. So I will go and give a good report to Thomas about one of our daughters in front of her. So I will say, she worked so hard. I watched her study. I watched her, and she did a great job at this test. She accomplished this. She had the effort and the accomplishment. I might go to him and say in front of one of our daughters, I came home and she did the dishes and I didn't even ask her to. She's such a hard worker and such a servant's heart. So whatever it may be, but we verbalize them to one another and to the girls. And then also we will talk about the positive traits of their sisters with them. Another thing, have them talk about things that they like about themselves. My daughters and I had a little session of this the other day where we each shared something we don't like about ourselves and we shared something we do like about ourselves. And as it happened, it was so beautiful because I didn't explain to them what I was trying to accomplish by doing this. But as each one shared the insecurity, the thing they didn't like about themselves, all the other sisters immediately were like, "Are you kidding me? I love that about you." And they were like encouraging one another. And I'm sitting back quietly, like smiling as my heart is melting that my girls are so sweet to each other.
And Lysandra was like telling me about the conversation later because I was not there for that. And they probably wouldn't have shared if I was there, some of those things.
Yeah.
And it was awesome to hear the report of how they were encouraging each other. And for some, they had some things they didn't really like about themselves, and other sisters were like highlighting, no, that is a good thing, and this is why.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I thought that was an awesome conversation you guys had.
Right. And then when everybody went around and shared the thing they're insecure about or the thing they don't like about themselves, the rest of us were there to say why we thought that was positive or that we don't agree with that. No, you that is a good thing, and so on and so forth. So that was a good conversation. That might be something that you can do to help with the insecurities.
And then focus attention on baby steps. So not necessarily conquering whatever it is, but how can we take some baby steps in that direction? So, for instance, we're talking about a child who maybe feels like they're stupid. All right, what are some baby steps where we can change that? And maybe we're helping them learn how to study better. And we're giving them the tools and helping them to know where to go to find out the information that they need or want to know.
Yeah, so the baby step that you might praise in that scenario would be, oh my goodness, look at this entire page of notes you took. You took that entire page of notes and you studied by taking notes. That's a very baby step.
Yeah.
But if we can praise that and focus that attention there, then that can help them to go on to other steps.
And build that confidence.
Right.
And so helping them to know what step to take. And then as they're taking those steps, you recognize that. And that encourages them to continue down this course and building up the tools and the confidence and the things that they need to help them to either completely overcome their insecurity or at least learn how to manage and deal with it in spite of the insecurity.
And then another one, I think this is really good, to notice and talk about good in others in a variety of ways. And here's why this is important. Let's use the scenario about a child who feels like they're stupid because they're not passing a test or they're not getting the grades they wish they were. If you are constantly noticing and praising intelligence and success in education in other people, and that's something that you are just constantly talking about. Oh, they have their doctorate. Oh, this person over here, look at what they've accomplished in the area of degrees or successes in education or whatever. Or if you are constantly talking about other siblings and their grades, and that is like the constant focus of what you are seeing and talking about in other people.
Yeah.
Your children are getting the message. This is what's important to mom and dad. This is the only thing that matters.
Right.
Is making good grades. That's the only thing that matters. And let me say, that is not the only thing that matters. Not in life, not to the Lord. I believe that it is important. Education is important, but there are so many other things that are important. Kindness is important. Character is important. The way that you treat others is so important. Serving the Lord is important. Education is important.
Yeah.
It's one of many things. It's okay to say that, oh, wow, that person's so beautiful. It's okay to say, wow, that person, look at what they've accomplished in their career. Look what that person has accomplished in their education. Look at how kind that person is. Look at how socially apt that person is. And so we can talk about that, but we need to be talking about the different varieties of ways that people succeed, not just one avenue, because that's gonna make them think that if they are not successful in that one area, they cannot be successful at all, which is untrue. Maybe you are obsessed with beauty and you have all the beauty products and everything. And so you're always noticing the woman who is 65, but she looks like she's 30. And you're like, wow, and always talking about that aspect or whatever. Your child's going to think that the only thing that matters is the way that she looks or he looks. And maybe it's athletics, So just think about that and make sure that you're noticing good in others in a variety of ways and the different attributes that are important.
And what that does is that opens up a wide variety of ways that your child can feel accomplished and feel successful versus, hey, if they don't, maybe that's just not their thing.
Right.
Then they feel the weight of that, the failure and everything else, which can just magnify whatever insecurities they have along those issues. And so noticing the wide scope of things that really helps them to see, I can fit in a lot of places and I can be successful in a lot of places. And the area where I'm good has a lot of value.
And I also try to talk about, so maybe my child is insecure in, let's say we'll keep going with this intelligence. Okay. They're insecure about their intelligence. and how they're doing in school. And so they're like, oh, that kid over there is so much better than me. They're always getting A's and I am not getting A's. Then I might say, you know what? That's true. That child is getting A's and that's awesome for them. And I'm really happy for them. But you know what? That child has a really hard time making friends. And look at the friends that you have made, because this is what you're good in. You know, so it might be, you're not on the team and you're not making all the baskets in basketball and your stats are bad. I'm not really great at basketball analogies.
She's with sports the way I am with cars.
Yes. So maybe it's that. And they're embarrassed of their athleticism. You can say, yeah, but that person who's so good in their athleticism, they're not successful in their grades, but that's where you are strong. And helping them to understand nobody is good at everything. Everybody has areas that they're good. Everybody has areas that they fail. And it's okay. It's good. Celebrate the things that are good in others and in yourself and cope with the ways that we struggle. And that may be the lesson that we need personally, huh?
Most definitely. So we want to encourage you to have a family meeting tonight and just talk about these insecurities. And you need to take the lead and just share what are the insecurities that you have? What are the things that you just struggle with? And open up about that. And as you take the lead and you become vulnerable, then that will open up the door for your children to start to be able to share what are the insecurities that they have, what are the things that they struggle with. And I know some of you have this idea that, hey, if I share things that I struggle with, then they won't respect me and they won't look at me in that light anymore. No, they will respect you. They'll respect you more.
Yes. And it brings freedom to you.
And it's helpful for them to understand that, hey, Mom, she's a human like I am. Daddy's he's a human like I am, but look what he's able to overcome. Look how she's able to handle this, and in spite of the things that she's dealing with, she is still able to do X, Y, and Z. And so you start off and you lead the example, sharing what you're insecure about, what you're dealing with, and then you can follow some of these other things that we've talked about in helping them walk through this. And so asking the question as they share, why do you think you are struggling with that? Why do you feel like that's an insecurity for you? And help them to see the positive in who they are. And you start to have this conversation as we've talked about, but it can be a very helpful thing for you as a family to do this. That way you can be there to support and encourage one another as you have good days and bad days with your insecurities.
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information to be helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and content and information.
Maybe you should just read.
The word. Yeah. Lysandra and I provide. You can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
Next week, we are going to have an interesting episode on a topic suggested by one of our listeners. We want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we share some much needed information on the importance of having a living will. This isn't a fun topic.
No.
But as a married couple, it is one that we need to be thinking about. So we'll share some of that information with you next week.
Well, and we were kind of chatting about this a little bit. Now, someone put this episode idea out there, and we're going to do it. But we were just talking about this the other day because we're planning a trip to Israel later this year.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And
it came
so, traveling abroad and whatever, hey, if something happens, we want to make sure everything's lined up so that our kids are taken care of. And so you never know what's going to happen in life. Mm-hmm. James talks about the fact that our life is a vapor. It's here for a little while and vanishes away. And so we want to be prepared. We want to be ready in case something does happen. So I think it'll be a helpful conversation. Like you said, not necessarily a fun conversation, but one you need to have. So let's we don't want to end with that. Like, we don't want to end with you thinking about what happens when I die. So let's end with this.
Okay.
Relationship refresh.
Ooh.
July 21st, 22nd. Time with the love of your life.
I can't wait.
In beautiful Orlando, Florida. Tickets are just $25 a piece. That's it. And you can go then and reserve your room at the Beautiful Point Resort. Less than $100. Then you add tax and fees on top of that. So it'll be over $100. But that's pretty good. It's a
great deal.
It's about $50 less or more. What, last year?
Yes.
Yeah. And so they gave us a great deal this year, great discount. So we'd love to see you in Orlando. So much to do. Whether you like Disney and all that, Universal Studios, maybe you want to go to the beach. Orlando's not far from the beach, and so you can spend some extra time, hit the beach on either side. Definitely prefer the Atlantic side myself, but I like to visit the Gulf side. It's a lot of fun. All the restaurants you can think of are there. So many things to do, and of course, spending time working on your relationship with the person that you love more than anything. So please, come on and join us. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. And what about you? Do you have your tickets to Relationship Refresh yet? There is a limited number of tickets, limited spots available, but we still have room for you. So hop on there and get your tickets. And we'd love to see you as well.
Yes. Thanks for joining us for our family meeting today. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.
Peace out.